All right, so examples of persuasive writing. How do we make it persuasive? How do we sell our ideas? So, I don't want to call upon stereotypes, but think about people who are persuasive in your life. It could be your children, it could be advertisers, I don't know, sports people, debaters, politicians. All of them are in the game of persuading you to do something, And how do they do that? How do they sell things to you? How do they convince that this is the thing to go for? We need to learn how to do that. But just in case you think it's all just about selling with no content, remember these are research proposals. So we have to not forget our disciplinary roots. We must base our arguments on the literature. You've got to quote the literature. You're advancing the knowledge base from this base in the literature. And it's, stepping on the shoulders of the great. So, I'm not asking you to abandon all of this. This has to appear. But you also, in places in the application, and we'll talk about this now, be persuasive. How do you write persuasively? All right, so the answer to that is think about passion. Be passionate, be determined. Hey, this has to get done. Why? Because it'll help your agenda. Remember that service orientation as well. But be committed. If you write in a way that sort of gives you the impression, yeah, this is important work. Sometime it must get done. Maybe not today, but sometime. Compared to somebody, hey, this is vital. We've got to get this done because it'll make a difference in people's lives. Young children are being educated. They're failing because of lack of technology. We have to make this different now. Otherwise, we're going to suffer a whole generation of people lacking education. I'm trying to show, in your writing, you've got to be energetic, enthusiastic, committed to the subject that you're writing about. Even speak to emotions. Now, again, in science, the scientific method, knowledge production, it's not about emotion. You'll say the results are in table 1. Not good for your grant application. Preliminary results that have been developed so far show great potential for uncovering the complexity of the whatever it happens to be. Talk using that type of language. Let me give you an example. When in the days when we used to do the workshop live in CLTD, I used to get people to actually write persuasive statements. Not so easy online, but we certainly did it that way in the classroom. And the one young woman who was working in the field of public health, and she was talking about obesity. And today happens to be World Obesity Day, so that's just a coincidence. But her persuasive opening statement for her grant application that she shared with us was this sentence: obesity kills. Full stop. So, talk about emotion and passion and really getting people's attention. That's the type of thing that I'm talking about here. Next one, use adjectives and adverbs. In our academic writing, we avoid these things. The results are in table 1. But now we must say that exciting new results with lots of potential are listed in table 1. You know what I'm saying? And a great way to get across this passion and emotion is to vary your sentence length and sprinkle it with short sentences. Typical academic sentence, it's 3 or 4 phrases. It's about 5 or 6 lines long, lots of commas and breakups and something in brackets and maybe something with hyphens and really complex and whatnot. Obviously, the complex matters that we're discussing. But are they persuasive? And sometimes that sentence, obesity kills, is important to get across. So I also write, with passion. Think about, write as a researcher, write as an educator, write as yourself, determined to get this work done. Put your whole being into it. It's not just academic writing. Academic in the sense that there it is, take it or leave it. Much more than that. So, what do you think? Am I challenging you too far? Have you ever written with passion? Do you know how to write with passion? Purina?
Hi, Dr. Drinan. I just wanted to share my experience, because I think this tip on writing with passion, speaking to emotions and writing in the first person, that's something important that I learned from this session today. I'm just recalling one of a grant that I wrote last year. I think because we're so habituated to writing academically, it felt odd, to speak to those emotions, to bring in the first person. And I think that's an element that I know that I'm missing in my grant writing skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. You're totally right. It feels so odd and so uncomfortable to be writing like this. And that it does, people battle with it because it's not something that they're familiar with. But I really do recommend it. I see in the chat, Belinda says, I think finding the balance is very important. Writing with passion, keeping it short and concise. Yes. So remember, I had that but on the slide. You do have to quote the literature. You do have to talk about that. So it's, not a sales document from the top to the bottom. There are places, and we'll talk about those places now, where the more academic style comes out. But up front, where you sort of grabbing the attention of your reviewer, this is where the persuasiveness, the first person, the passion, the excitement, the commitment is very, very important. I also see writing with passion and emotion sounds like what we would do for a motivation or cover letter for an application. Is it the same as what you mean by being passionate? Yeah, absolutely. So cover letter, yeah, it's certainly part of it. But often grants will start with what they call a problem statement, a description of the research area. And this is where you need to grab the attention of your reviewers. Remember, your peer reviewers, the NRF has two types of peer review, what they call panel peer review, where they get all the people together in a panel meeting. Okay, let's say a physical panel meeting, in the old days, or postal peer review, where they would email the application to them and ask the reviewer to send back comments. In that panel meeting, when they physically get together, because that's the one that makes the decision, that panel meeting, those reviewers have to read all the applications. And let's say a reviewer is traveling from Cape Town up to Pretoria. When do you think they start reading the proposals? Often it happens they start on the aeroplane, the flight up, the 2-hour flight up. And in the aeroplane is really full, and there's a baby up front there crying, and there's somebody behind you slurping his tea, and all of these distractions. And your application has to stand out amongst all the pile that the reviewer has. How's that going to happen? Your passion, your excitement, your enthusiasm will do that for you. Okay, so yeah, it is different. It is new. Right, let me go back. So this was the exercise of writing these. So we won't do that because it's quite tricky. Now, just while we're talking about the actual writing of grants, I want to give you some of the sort of tips, the grantsmanship tips that we spoke about earlier. So that the challenge is to gently lead your reviewer to the conclusion you want, which is funding. So think when you write about the reviewer, and here's a hint. In your academic development, if you get an opportunity to become a reviewer, jump at the opportunity. because you'll get to see how successful people write their grants. You'll get to see this in action. You'll get to see what a good grant is, more than any talking I can do for you. So jump at it. Now, I know you're busy. You've got lots of teaching. You've got lots of service and admin, and you've got to do your research and so much to do. But don't give up the opportunity to do a peer review, either for a journal or for a grant, a research grant. Obviously, better for grants in the context of what we're talking about, but any peer reviewing gives you insight, very important insight. All right, so your job as the applicant is to feed the reviewer the information that she needs to be able to give you the funding. And how do you do that? Well, one is to flag important bits. What do I mean by flag important bits? Well, let's say we're talking about deliverables. Don't hide it away in the middle of a paragraph that is 2 pages long. Make it stand out. How do you do that? Use a heading, a subheading. Start a sentence with the deliverables of this research are. Make it clear. Use bullets. I know folk from the humanities and social sciences in general hate the use of bullets, because they're skilled in the art of writing coherent arguments. Chemists like me aren't skilled like that, and so we tend to use bullets all over the place. You know what I mean by bullets in text. But make it easy for people to find. I often hear reviewers saying, I've read the application and can't find any information about that, but I may be wrong, which generally means they've skimmed read it and couldn't pick it up, and so, they're saying it's missing. And it could well be there, but it's kind of buried in all the text. You need to wordsmith it. The layout of your document, make this key element, the novelty or the alignment with the funder's needs or the deliverables, stand out really clearly. So at a glance, I can see, here are the deliverables. Let me read them in detail. Flagging is really important. So use headings or subheadings. Make it really easy for them to follow. Also, never open the door to criticism. So, if you're aiming to get funding from, let's say geology, Robert's area, don't bring in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. I mean, you might just have a Russian reviewer, and you don't want to, lose your grant application for something of that sort of nature. Try, of course, if you're studying the Russian-Ukraine conflict, then obviously you'll write about it. But, if you're dealing with chemistry or pharmacy, don't bring sort of controversial things in that might, put the back up of a reviewer. And then just things like content, format, sentence structure, vocabulary, language, punctuation, spelling, all create a lasting impression on your reviewer. Now, for me, there's no parallel between being a good speller and doing a good research. I'm a very creative speller, but I think I'm fairly good at doing a little research. But the truth is, if I use a lot of bad spelling and bad grammar, it does leave an impression on your reviewer. And so that's why editing is very important. Ask a colleague to read and edit all your work. And you'll get tired of seeing it after a while, and you'll start missing all the problems. So editing is very important. So it's just some very, very practical things there. Now, another quick thing here. If you battle to get started in writing your proposal, sure, I keep on putting it off. The deadline's getting closer. But, I just can't get started. These hints might help. First of all, have a stock proposal ready. What do I mean by stock proposal? So I'm sort of likening it to a stock cube that you put in the stew or whatever at home. Just something that you can just drop in and you've got instant flavor. So for me, if you've got an old proposal that you've used before, got it ready, it's always easier to tune and work on that, improve that, update that. than to start with a blank page. You know, I'm sure you agree with me, to start with a blank page. It's a lot of work to get up to a full proposal. So keep your old proposals. Don't just write them directly into the databases. Store it on Word, and then you can always start from that point. Remember, each one has to be tuned to the specific funder that you've selected, but at least you've got something to work with. Next, if you've got nothing, then start with a brainstorming session. Get 1 or 2 people to just fire off ideas in this area. You know, work as a little team. It's very powerful. But never criticize people's ideas. You know, if I come up with a really wacky, crazy idea, don't criticize that idea, because it shuts my creativity down. And although it's a wacky idea, never possible, it might trigger a really deep insight idea in somebody else's mind. Mind map, you saw right at the beginning, I had the mind map around winning things. I like writing mind maps. I think might also come from Edward de Bono. I'm not sure about that. But that sort of way, little pictures, just words and how they link together, very good way of capturing your thinking. And then I never write from the beginning in perfect English. I start off by maybe putting bullets and then develop them into sentences and then paragraphs, and then, you know, in an iterative process, add more and more and more until it's all. And, you know, like the abstract can never be written first. It's always written last. So, you know, those sort of things that you already know about. Yeah, so I won't go through the mind map. Here's the mind map for Tutuka. I just want to go through that again. So it's all about redress and equity, demographic targets based on gender, race, and disability. Program's been around quite a long time. Can be spent on research costs, student bursaries. That's changed now. The NRF just changed their bursary scheme. So sorry, that must come out. But also your development costs. So for early career, you know, you can invite a top person to come and visit you. You can go and visit a top person, not more or less related to the project, but not specifically a collaborator. This opportunity to develop yourself. The annual budget is about 20 to 30 million in the NRF, but it's matching. So if your grant is, say, 10,000 Rand, the University Wits has to add in another 10,000. So you end up with 20,000. So the total budget is more like 60 million, which goes quite a long way. Average size of grant, it's a 3-year grant, is about between 150 and 200,000 Rand a year. And it's about human capacity development. So you're not competing with Professor X and Professor Y. You're competing with other early career academics. It's very much for emerging researchers. So it's a great opportunity. Look out for it. Participate in my workshops specifically around Tutuka. And we have about an 80% success rate, which is incredibly high. Typically, the NRF success rate around 33%, a third. So 80% success rate is brilliant. So well done for that.